Our next guest is the youngest daughter of civil rights leaders, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Coretta Scott King. She's a lawyer, minister, and CEO of the King Center in Atlanta, Georgia. Today, she continues the crusade that her father started many years ago for peace, equality, and justice for all. She's an important and valued voice in Black culture. And when she talks, we all listen. Please welcome our friend, Dr. Bernice King.
Hey!
Well,
Hi!
Hey there! Glad to see you all again.
Good to see you.
Welcome back to the show. Now, Dr. Bernice, we recently celebrated what would have been your father's 93rd birthday. How do you want Dr. King to be remembered and celebrated?
Well, I would say remembered in three ways: as a transformative and revolutionary leader, as a warrior for nonviolent social change, and as the architect of the 21st century who really left us a blueprint to fight for racial and economic justice. And finally, I want people to celebrate him by doing one of three things: educating themselves, advocating for those things that he advocated for, and then activating in those areas where we need to challenge unjust situations and circumstances.
Definitely.
So true. Now, your father, Dr. King's work and crusade to eradicate racism is still front and center. Yet, there are many political figures who use his words but fight against the very things that he stood for. What's your message to people who misappropriate Dr. King's words and legacy?
Well, I mean, for me, it's about challenging those people to study the comprehensive King, that he is not an excerpt. He's not a soundbite, that those words that he spoke, many words, had a context. And in order to be able to speak those words, you need to understand the context. Otherwise, you are undermining what he meant and intended by what he was saying.
And you know, when you tweet about it, I retweet it all the time because she get after him. I love it, okay?
Needed.
Now, Dr. Bernice, as much as we honor the legacy and the work of your father, it was your mother, Coretta Scott King's endless fight to push for a national holiday to commemorate him and his mission. How important was your mother's role in the work your father did while he was alive and long after he died?
Well, I always say to people that my mother perhaps was well ahead of my father because she was the one who was a stabilizing force to him so often when he felt weak and discouraged. So she was like his top advisor. She participated in some of the strategy sessions. She was a peace advocate. She was involved in the peace movement and was the one who encouraged him to speak out on the war in Vietnam. There were many other voices, but she was the one stabilizing voice, consistently saying, we need your voice in the peace movement. And so she also was a fundraiser. She did concerts where she shared the story of the movement and sang songs, narrated, I should say, stories of the movement and sang songs relevant to the movement. And then finally, when he was assassinated, I tell people he's one of the most hated persons in our nation, but now he's one of the most loved, yes, maybe because he's not with us, but also because Mrs. Coretta Scott King single-handedly, with the support of other people and family in particular, helped to fashion and form his legacy and fought very hard to institutionalize it by creating the King Center and also fighting for the King holiday so that every year we would have to contend with who he was and the teachings that he exemplified and left with us as a nation. So if you want to say anything about her, we wouldn't know Dr. King in his iconic fashion had it not been for the tireless efforts of my mother.
Dr. Bernice, whenever you hear the Stevie Wonder song, Happy Birthday, do you jam to it like I do?
Well, you know, I don't know if I jam to it, but it's kind of, you know, it's I don't know, it's real strange to know that that's a song that's associated with your father.
Yeah. Is it
So
bittersweet?
there's a little bit of pride, I guess. when I hear it. So yeah, it's, you know, it moves me, but not the way you move, I'm sure.
Yeah, you know me. You know what I was doing. Now, you know, something else that's very important, the right to vote, is under attack. You recently tweeted, ending voter suppression matters. We must also ensure that people have something to vote for. Do you think the necessity to address voting rights is being overshadowed by political power players?
Yeah, I think unfortunately this has become the most polarizing issue of our time, when it should be the one issue that we all rally around and support. You know, we know that back in 2006, you know, the Senate came together and supported the Voting Rights Act. They passed it one more time. And, you know, it was nonpartisan, or it was bipartisan, should I say. And so I think it has become a political football, and it's about, you know, Democrats versus Republicans, Republicans versus Democrats. And it should be about our democracy.
Right. Yes.
Because that's what makes us connected in this democracy, is the right to vote.
Now you're the CEO of the King Center in Atlanta, which was created by your mother. Tell us about the new NonViolence 365 online e-learning platform.
I just have to say, wasn't that a beautiful picture?
It sure
Yes,
was.
yeah.
My parents on the opposite side are in that reflecting pool side by side in the crypt.
Oh.
But our NonViolence e-learning platform is the first ever in the world that gives people an opportunity to immerse themselves in a self-paced, interactive experience that will create, I believe, personal, cultural, and societal transformation. Individuals will be introduced and explore my father's philosophy and methodology of nonviolence. They will be provided with some practical guidelines for dealing with everyday challenges by applying the concepts of nonviolence to their own personal experiences. They'll get insight on how to create the beloved community that we hear a lot about. They will have foundational strategies for social justice and systematic change. And finally, they will be able to develop skills to create positive change, not just in their communities, but in their homes, in their workplaces, and in their schools. And so people can log on to the kingcenter.org for a 16 to 18-hour experience.
Wow.
And they will be prepared, I believe, to take the first step to embrace nonviolence as a lifestyle and a vehicle for social transformation.
That sounds
Fantastic.
incredible, right? You also, as if that wasn't enough, you also have a new children's book out titled It Starts With Me. Yes, show us that beautiful book.
Oh,
beautiful.
That's incredible. I love the shirt that says Be Love.
Yes.
Yes.
What would you say inspired the book?
Well, just real quick, we did a campaign last year called Be Love, and it was really, you know, about injecting that notion in a very polarizing time, a very divisive time. And we knew that my father spoke to the power of love to transform and change systems and structures. And we wanted to make sure that children joined us on the journey. And so we pulled together this book, helping them to understand that Be Love is about starting with them. It starts with each one of us. And if we can embrace it, and if we can exemplify it in everything that we do, it's not something mamby-pamby and weak and sentimental. It's strong, it's powerful, it's courageous. It does confront evil and injustice and inequity. And so we wrote it in a way that children can relate to it. And in it, we have them to take a pledge to be loved.
That is so great.
What a
So
great message. Thank you for all you do. Dr. Bernice A. King, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your wisdom always with us. Her new book, It Starts With Me, is available everywhere books are sold, so be sure to pick up a copy as soon as you can.